We're back live in Houston, Texas, hosting city for the Southland Conference Football Media Days presented by Levy Recognition and Ready. Great to have you with us today as we continue on with a preview of the upcoming football season, and we wrap it up with the Huskies from Houston Baptist. We'll hear from their head coach and the players in just a moment. Right now, let's take a look at the Huskies.
Basher, that one's intercepted. Picked off by Houston. Sleeping Dormius. Being chased from behind. Will anybody catch him? No. And Houston Baptist with a 6. And Zappi lofts it downfield. He's got Josh Stearns. Makes the catch and stride. Zappi, end zone, touchdown, Jared Stearns.
All right, a look at the Huskies from Houston Baptist, HBU, here to talk about their upcoming season. Take a look at their numbers. Vic Shealy back for his 8th season at the helm at HBU, returning 17 starters, 6 on offense, 9 defensively, 2 on special teams. They opted out of the spring season. They played last fall, played a 4-game schedule. They will open their new season on September 2nd at New Mexico. Their conference opener will be October 2nd against Nichols on the road. So a pleasure to be joined by their head coach, Vic Shealy, as we talk some Husky football, HBU, and it's hard to believe. I was just saying, it's been 8 years already. It's flown by when you launched this program to where it is now. I know you've continued, Vic, to see progress in areas, and you keep taking those steps.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good to see you again, by the way.
Yeah, great, Mark. And, you know, we're excited to be here, and we're excited to be starting our 8th year as a football program. You know, sometimes we kind of look and we still can't believe it's, you know, times maybe going that fast. But we are proud members of the Southland Conference. We're excited to be here, and we're excited for this season. I know there's some things about the Southland that are going to be a little bit different this year with the schedule, but I think this has a chance to be really one of the most exceptional years in the history of the conference because of how competitive it's going to be. And with that, you know, I'm excited because I bring a very competitive football team to this conference this year. You know, we've improved every year, and we really felt like last year was a special year for us. We, like many teams, were really disappointed that we weren't going to be able to play a complete fall schedule. But the improvement that we have continued to show in many ways last year, I think, kind of manifests itself in a situation where people really can understand, you know, what was going on internally in the recruiting effort and the development of athletes in our program. And we have a significant number of players coming back, and we could be more excited about the 2021 season.
If you can talk about what you guys went through in the fall, obviously the whole preparing to play a season, you guys opted to play in a fall season, a 4-game schedule. Talk about the challenges of preparing for that and getting through it, and the results you got. You won a ball game, but man, you almost won in Lubbock against the Texas Tech team, and signs that this program was rising quickly. Begin now, if you don't mind, just the challenges of getting your football team ready during a pandemic.
Well, you know, we couldn't do anything, you know, without the support, any of us as coaches, without the financial support that your university gives you a chance to go through a difficult year that 2020 was. You know, I could not be more proud. The reason why we played almost without a positive case for those 4 ball games is because our athletes chose to want to play, and they made the sacrifices and they made the efforts, Mark, that really gave us a chance to each week as coaches to concentrate on what went on the field and not worry about our roster. You know, I think the challenges of getting your guys back, toughened up, in condition to play come 1st of September, you know, that's probably been well documented by everybody. But our guys worked hard, and we got them back on campus last summer, and but by the time we hit September, we felt like we were playing fast. We had recovered a lot of the strength and power that our guys perhaps for some maybe had kind of lacked. And our guys are ready to play. And we had the decision to make, do we play in the fall or do we play in the spring? And our choice was we're playing in the fall. And I know sometimes I get asked a little bit about some of the advantages or disadvantages of the two, but I can tell you what, I'm glad we played in the fall, but I wish we could have played everybody in the conference because we could have sit there and I think at the end of this season with the team we had last year and make a significant run at this league. And I think that the success we had in those 4 games, we only played 1 FCS ball game, beat Eastern Kentucky on the road. The next week they beat Central Arkansas. So I think the standard had been set for what we were capable of accomplish. And, this has been a difficult journey, but when you look at through the spring and where we are now through the summer, we are ready to go play.
So the fall season wrapped up. Walk us through, while many teams were playing in the spring, you guys had spring practice, I would assume. Walk me through the off season for you guys after playing that schedule. What's it been like, progress made, and kind of the state of the program right now?
Yeah, come October 5th, I guess when we played Eastern Kentucky, we gave our players a week off, and we put them right back in the weight room. And we made the decision that between then and Thanksgiving that we were going to grind away at them and make them have to kind of suffer in that weight room and to athletically take advantage of that moment. We did some of the things on the field with Miss Coaches just to keep some of the football component alive, but we wanted to develop them. We came back in. We had a great early off season. We moved spring practice back. We had great weeks. We had a little flare-up of COVID during spring ball, so we extended spring to a 6th week, which kind of made it feel like a long spring, but we got all 15 days in, and now we have had a full summer. And so it's been a little bit of a journey, but I think when you kind of look at the fact that our seniors got a chance to prepare for a pro day, and that didn't occur in many situations throughout FCS, and our football team had an opportunity to line up and get strong over a long window of time that some teams that didn't finish playing until May are probably trying to gather up really, really fast. And so we feel like for us, playing the fall was an advantage. And then that timeline is produces where we are right now is probably the most physically talented and fit team that we brought to the season.
Coming out of spring practice, staff-wise, tell us about your staff. Any changes in the offseason, and if so, if you can get into that a little bit.
Yeah, but back in the winter, we lost our defensive coordinator to Iowa State, hired a coach, Shane Eachus. He was a linebacker coach at Oklahoma State. That was a scheme that we were actually spending time for several weeks in the late fall, really trying to look and see what they did because they have been so successful in the Big 12. And as most people know, that if you can play defense in the Big 12, you can play it anywhere. And so what Oklahoma State has done in that conference to take back the game defensively has really been impressive. And so Coach Eachus comes in, very, very bright, installed that scheme into us this spring. Here in a little bit, I'll let Coy visit about that as a player. But I tell you what, we have improved ourselves and excited about where we are. On offense, we lost our offensive coordinator to Western Kentucky, and with that, brought in an opportunity back in the summer. A coach by the name of Cedric Cormier from UNLV, a great name in this city,
right.
and a great ball coach, and had been at UNLV for 10 years. And he was on our staff, and I would tell you that much of the reasons why we became a much more efficient and error-free offense, and it was a significant change from 2019 where we could charm anybody offensively, but we also could do things to be destructive. Cedric had the greatest impact on our offense, and so when we were going to stay within our offensive system, that's who we are, and looking for a guy that would make us better, we got a guy on campus. We elevated him to coordinator, and consequently this spring has been outstanding. We are a really good football team.
I can sense the excitement coming in your remarks. If you have some questions for Coach Shealy, just raise your hand. We'll bring a mic to you as well. Vic, talk about advantages, disadvantages, if you don't mind, of being the only returning Southland team that didn't play in the spring. Pros and cons of that for you.
Well, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think one of the challenges for any coach, given that situation, was the fact that what would you lose by playing in the spring versus what you would gain? And for us in our program where we are, because we had some really talented seniors, we saw that if we played in the fall with the COVID red shirt, maybe we had an opportunity to realize them a part of our program again. And obviously we have 2 seniors here today that benefit from that process that would have already been gone. I think the other side of that coin might be the fact that, we have some talented seniors that got a chance to, and they're in the league now for practicing. And that process was made more difficult. And I kind of felt a little bit of ownership that we had developed a lot of players in a short timeline to be NFL talented guys that are worthy of the pro days and the tryouts, and to not to give them their best opportunity. And then our university, we wanted to play in the fall. Now, I will say the disadvantage, though, clear is the fact that we didn't get a chance to play everybody in our league, because that would have been fun.
All right, some questions now before we toss over to Maddie. If you have a question, Richard, we'll start with you.
Richard Dean, Houston Chronicle. Coach, you've had a prolific offense last several years, and then Bailey Zappi going to Western Kentucky, and about 2 or 3 receivers also joining them there. How are you going to replace these guys, or who are you looking at to have a good year this year, and who's going to be your starting quarterback, or who's battling for the quarterback position?
Yeah, I think that we did lose some players that had great experience, and I think 3 of the top 5 receivers in all of FCS were on roster with us last fall, and certainly Bailey's career has now been pretty well documented. Was what will be the record holder probably for the next decade of the most yardage of a FCS quarterback thrown against an FBS opponent, and his numbers were great. Our system produces a lot of these offensive outcomes. And back about several years ago, I made the decision that we need to change directions offensively, kind of define what the recruiting niche is in the state of Texas for us. This state produces great quarterbacks and great offensive skill kids. I mean, they're all over the place. And so we wanted to really center the offense on making people have to defend that kind of a player in space. And so we made some changes, interviewed several guys, hired a guy in Zach Kitley. They did a good job in bringing that system into us. As he left, he leaves as a coordinator, but that system is still in place at HBU. I will say one thing, and this doesn't go probably spoken high enough. When Drayshawn Manyweather starts and finishes a ball game healthy, we don't lose. You can go back and look at the last 2 years. Drayshawn is the reason why we win football games. Now, he's going to be really complimentary to his offensive line. He's going to say all the right things because that's how he's wound up there. He appreciates those guys around him. But Drayshawn is the reason, just the data, we have won ball games. I would say that when you talk about losing players, Mark, you lose experience, and that's valuable. And so you can't ever really quickly gain that back. But we've been recruiting pretty hard. And I think when you kind of look at the fact that in 8 years we've been able to maybe push a Big 12 program to the brink, I think it shows the growth that's there. We have chosen to do it almost wholesale with high school kids. And it takes longer to do it that way because you out-recruit them pretty quickly the first few years. And Drayshawn and Coy represent guys that kind of came in about halfway through our timeline where they have not been able to be out-recruited. And many players in our program that way. Specific to the offense, Richard, is just the fact that we have got some really, really talented offensive skill kids in our program. And while we may lose experience, the DNA this fall on the field will actually probably be greater than what it was this past fall. And so as coaches, we have great confidence because we know that it is about the players. All right, it's a skill level that they bring to the field. We're more athletic. Our spring, we're notably faster. And with that, I've got great confidence in what we're capable of doing this fall.
And then as far as your recruiting, that says a lot about the kids and the quality of players that you're bringing in, or other schools, they're transferring to some other schools that they're in demand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that's kind of interesting, a lot of times at the FCS level, the transfer athlete creates offense or creates plays. And sometimes a marked difference between the transfer and the high school recruiting model in a program. We are about 95% high school model. It takes a bit longer to develop athletes, but when you kind of see and we saw this spring the NFL attention now, probably with guys now in our program going to the NFL, but also I think we kind of look at what they have in interest in these guys in our program now. There will be seniors, and you do it through your own. I mean, the genesis is Texas high school kids in our program, and that's one of the most important things for us is are we recruiting the right guys, and then are we developing them, and I think we're starting to really see that.
Another question here.
Coach Robert Kelly, Tech Sport Publications. 2 questions. First off, with everybody having to play 2 Southland Conference teams, 3 teams twice, all the coaches have addressed that previously and said that, it's going to be hard to beat somebody twice. Does that change your setup of what you're going to do as far as planning your practice sessions or your game plan, having to play a team twice in one season?
The only other time that I've played a team twice in my career, I was the head coach of a Division II school, and we played a team in the regular season, then later in the playoffs, and so I don't know that I got a lot of experience. I know the NFL does it every year, and I know even recruiting over the winter, when you kind of look at some teams are no longer with us, and you had to kind of deal with the conversations in recruiting about the fact that we're going to probably play twice. I think you kind of look at it, well, if the NFL, if it's good enough for them to play people twice, the divisional games, and most times in NFL, divisional games are more hyped up than almost any other games there is. It's the difficulty of being a team twice. And I know there are going to be some games where we're going to line up and we're going to play really, really well the first time you play, and we're going to walk off that field feeling really good about ourselves. And then 3 weeks later, it's going to come down to maturity of your players and your ability for your coaches to create a fanatical and desperate approach in your kids to go up and play at a better level the next week, because that team will be. I do firmly believe this. I believe the top 3 teams in a 6-team Southland Conference school this year, because of the nature of our schedule, that those 3 teams will be the most qualified teams to enter the FCS playoffs. The best players in our league and the best teams in our league will be some of the best teams in the FCS. It's going to be difficult. We're going to kind of beat each other up a little bit. We're going to have to do some work, probably sharing our story a little bit through the course of the season. And the national rankings will be important for some of that stuff. But we have an opportunity, I think, to set the stage this year, and I'm looking forward to it. And I know that Commissioner Burnett's working tireless at the growth of the league as we talk about bringing in a couple more teams, over the next year. But I'm excited, and I believe that this year we have great opportunities.
How will the players react to defensive and offensive coordinators?
Well, I tell you what, I think defensively, personality-wise and scheme-wise, much of what we did 3 years ago offensively, this was kind of the genesis, a little bit kind of what happened this time around on defense. And our players defensively, we have almost everybody back on defense. So you have a very mature bunch that are athletic, that got a hyped-up coach with a scheme that's as sexy as anything out there. And so I tell you what, it's fun watching them practice. Offensively, while the scheme doesn't necessarily change, I think our emphasis is a little bit on, how we adapt to personalities, right? And so Coach Cormier comes in with a different personality than the coordinator that left. And so I think sometimes in spring ball, you have to adjust to personalities and realize that he may care about you just as much, but it just comes across a little bit different, right? And so I think that part of personality, and that was a great advantage of having a long spring with the coordinators, is that we got an opportunity to really build a lot of the relationships between the players themselves and the new coordinators.
All right, we're running tight on time. Let's take another question real quick in the back.
Hey, Coach, kind of building off of one of those earlier questions, a lot of these schools haven't seen you guys in 2 years since 2019. What do you make of that? Is it an advantage for you?
Well, Garrett, it's a great question. I think, defensively, they'll do the work on Oklahoma State. That's just prudent. It's what we were doing if we're in their shoes. So schematically, there won't be a lot of mystery. Offensively, we are who we are, and so that part won't change too much. I think that, obviously we're excited about having Drayshawn back healthy, and that changes any offense, right? Because you're finding ways to get him the ball. I think once that first ball game's played in the conference, we're all going to kind of settle in, and it's going to be a grind to up to Thanksgiving. And so, I hope that our guys are pretty fanatically charged to want to go play ball because it's been a while since we've been out there.
All right, so we're up against it. We're going to toss it over right now. We'll come back and take a look at the Husky schedule. Right now, let's get it over to Maddie with a couple of Husky players. Maddie?
Joined with running back Drayshawn Miniweather and cornerback Coy Miller. Both of you have been bitten by the injury bug in the last couple of years. Drayshawn, we'll go to you first.
Yes,
Coach just spoke so highly of you and what you're able to do when you're fully healthy. What have you been able to do in the off season since the last time you took the field to prepare yourself for this season?
I haven't been living it really. Everything that I do is really just built off of prayer and, preparation. I've been heavy on the prayer and heavy on the rehab, so I should be good. Should be covered this season.
And then Coy, you on the other hand?
I feel like I've gotten stronger and faster mentally and physically this offseason and just ready to play.
Coy, Coach mentioned that you have a lot of players coming back on the defensive end, 9 in fact. How is that helping you guys with just the fact that you've played together, you know each other, and how is that going to help you guys be successful this year?
With everybody returning, we're ready to take the next step, and all of us have already seen the field. We know exactly what to expect. The only thing it's going to come down to is us executing the plays Coach each has called and then just making the right plays.
We mentioned that you were injured for a portion of last year, but you were still able to play in that first game against North Texas. Your team played in the fall and played 3 FBS teams. How does that help prepare you guys for coming back down and playing in the Southland Conference?
It shows us that we can play with anybody. We're able to compete with anybody. We're able to step on the field with anybody, no matter who they are, and just compete. And then it brought us together as a team because it showed us that no matter who they are, we're able to step on the field with them and give a good game, great game.
Drayshawn, even with you being out the last couple of years here and there with injury, you still lead the Huskies in all-time with 16 touchdowns. How do you look to improve on that this year and step up and be that leader for the offense?
I didn't even really know that stat myself, so trying to keep the past behind me is the only way I'm gonna look forward and actually move forward. And you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I've been injured a lot, you know what I'm saying, but at the same time, I can still improve, I can still get better, I can still compete. Like Coy said, we can play with anyone. We feed off of that. I feed off my brothers, I feed off my O-line, feed off just words of encouragement from anyone. So the only way I'm gonna move forward is not looking back.
Well, awesome. We look forward to watching the Huskies take the field against some Southland teams this year, and we wish you guys the best of luck. And knock on wood that you both stay healthy, right? There you go. Back to you, Randy.
All right, Maddie, appreciate it. Thanks to the guys for joining us here for their comments. I know they're fired up for this new season. Coach, before we wrap it up with you, let's talk about your upcoming schedule and the kind of the way it begins on the road at New Mexico. What do you like most about your schedule this season?
Well, going on the road and playing an FBS school, week 1 is not new for us, so we got that down, and we're excited. We feel like we got a little bit left to prove, and we played pretty close to some of these FBS schools, and so we're looking forward to that one. Then we get a chance to come back and play a Big Sky team. One of the things that our conference and Commissioner Burnett has asked us to do as universities is to try to play FCS schools outside of our league as much as we can. It's hard to do, it's a challenge, but having Northern Colorado come in, who's a good team out of the Rocky Mountain area, that's a great. I can't wait to get them into the heat and humidity in September. That'll be awesome. And then we played Prairie View. It's a school that we have a lot of respect for. We admire what they're doing over there. It's a program that in many ways we feel like kind of identifies a lot with a lot of the Southland schools. And because of that, we kind of see them as almost like a Southland Conference caliber opponent right now that's in our own back door. I think we'll get a lot of nice conversations to be had that week here in the greater Houston area. And then we're going to go off and get ready for a little conference play. And I know Southeastern Louisiana is the only team we don't play twice, and so we'll have to make good on that one. But we're going to enjoy the opportunity just to do something special this year in the conference.
Always good to catch up with you. Vic Shealy, head coach at Houston Baptist, starting his 8th season. And again, they open their campaign this season coming up in a matter of weeks at New Mexico and into the conference schedule as well. Appreciate you being with us today, talking some Husky football. Best of luck this season, Coach.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, when we come back, we're going to wrap it up. Maddie and I will put a bow on Southland Conference Media Day. It's been a lot of fun hearing from all the head coaches and all the players from all the programs in the Southland. We'll wrap it up when we come back. Stick around.